Hello, thank you for listening. This is the near-death experience of Ray, and the date of this experience is unclear. Open quote. Oh no. Every time I try to describe this, it gets really frustrating. But oh well. First time, 10 years old. I went to Catholic school at the time and was horsing around with a friend after school on the playground. He was showing me a new judo move that he had learned in his martial arts class. He was going to flip me over his shoulder onto the ground. Something went wrong, and I landed directly on my head. I picked myself up from the ground with the most intense pain in my head and spine that I had ever experienced. I was literally knocked senseless. As I got up, I remember seeing a woman who was there to pick up her kids, getting out of her car with a horrified look on her face. She had seen the accident. I turned to run into the bathroom. I'm still not sure why, but only made it a few feet before I fell flat on my face on the concrete, blacked out completely. I thought that I had a dream when I was unconscious. What else would a 10-year-old compare the experience to? I did not realize what had really happened until many years later, when not only did it happen again, but also I started to hear of other NDEs. I felt as if my body had just come apart, and my vision was spiraling out of control. Swirling colors that seemed to disappear to a point somewhere, like a funnel or something. No, not a tunnel, a funnel. I was really scared because I felt like I was losing control of everything. Somehow I knew that I had to just go off my fear and roll with the funnel of swirling light. Oh, goof off my fear. Go off of my fear and roll with the funnel of swirling light. My body was gone. It felt like a blender had just ripped me apart, and I was drawn into the funnel toward the disappearing point. I just let go of everything. As soon as I let go of the fear, the pleasant sensations began. I still had a body, but it was entirely different. I could see in 3 dimensions as if I had no body at all, but was just a floating eyeball, for lack of a better explanation. I could see all directions at once, yet there was no directions or dimensions as we think of them. Note, this is one thing that really bothers me when I read or hear other NDEs that describe a place, sometimes with rivers and valleys and flowers. This was not a place anything like here. How could my experience be so different from others? I was greeted by a being of light and love, but nobody else that I could recognize. It seemed to be just a brilliant glow that seemed to absorb me inside itself. Love is far too weak a word to describe this experience. I became love. My entire being, every strand of my spirit, spreading throughout the universe, had become love times 1,000,000 billion. This is the point where I have to contradict myself. I said earlier that over there was not a place similar to what we experience here. I found myself in front of some giant golden gates of some kind. It reminded me of an altar in the Catholic Church. There was some kind of fog or something that obscured any sense of distance, but my pet dog Skippy was there. Skippy had died some years earlier and was the only person that I had any real family connection with that was dead. I was overwhelmed with joy and love and embraced my dog with my spirit. Although I don't remember Skippy saying anything to me, we were so happy to be together again. At this point, I was told that I must go back, that it was not my time. This is somewhat fuzzy here, but I remember an intense feeling of regret and being filled with a no, please let me stay feeling. But wherever the voice was coming from was adamant. It was not my time, and I must return. I had no choice in the matter. If it is possible to describe the funnel experience in reverse, this is what it felt like coming back here. It felt like my spirit was being stuffed into a jar that was far too small and painful to hold it. I was fighting to return. No, I don't want to go back. The process would not stop. I was returning. I heard voices, real voices. I opened my eyes briefly and saw a circle of people gathered around and over my body, my face in particular. It was the paramedics from the ambulance, and they were rubbing ice all over my face. One of them said he opened his eyes, with great joy on his part. I closed my eyes fiercely and tried to go back, go back, go back. But they kept yelling and telling me to open my eyes while lightly slapping my face. I was in deep physical pain and felt completely saturated with exhaustion. The second NDE, I was much older, 16, and had the beginnings of an adult ego and character. So this NDE was much more personal than the first. I will skip the details of the death part on this NDE. It is far too embarrassing to admit anything else other than I must have had an accidental overdose. I remember lying down against the wall at a party and closing my eyes. That was the last conscious memory I have. I woke up several hours later and the party was over. Everyone was asleep, all over, but not me. When I left my body, it was similar to the first time, but much scarier. I thought that I was going crazy, that I must be losing my mind. I stared up into the same funnel that I saw many years before. It had a much more intense, fragmented feeling and certain wrongness as my ego disintegrated into spirit. I was frightened and did not have any idea what was happening, just that I was totally out of control of what was going on. Again, I finally realized that I really did not have any control, so I might as well just hang on for the ride, no matter how frightening. The spiraling funnel was swirling upward to the same disappearing point somewhere in the distance as it sucked my spirit out of this world and my body. Then, the intense love, peace, and pleasure began to overcome me once more. I was no longer Ray. My ego had dissolved, but somehow I was still Ray, a being of immense light and love and holiness. But this time, the being was taking me on a trip or tour of some sort, once again escorted me. It had something to show me. Now, this is very difficult to describe, but time ceased to exist. It had no value there. Past and future were completely non-existent. I was traveling in an intense burning now. Now was everything. I ceased to be a noun, person, place, or thing, but became a verb, an action. I was raying instead of ray. This is the best I can do to describe what no time is like. It is beautiful in its own intensity and burning nowness. I was given a huge message at this point. The being told me, this is who you really are. As it opened the universe up to me, I could not tell the difference between the infinite galaxies and myself. I became all-powerful and all-knowing, and yet I was still Ray. I cannot describe this better than this, but this story feels so inadequate next to the real thing. Then the being guided me and introduced me to the most incredible beauty and love that anyone could comprehend. It was a greater being of the most intense light that could not possibly exist. It was God. The first being guided me to this light and let it enfold and swallow me up. I became one with love times a million, billion, trillion, forever and ever. We were made of the same stuff. Every being that had ever existed in all of creation was now a part of this greater whole being called God. I was one with all of them, and yet I was still Ray, all-powerful, little old me. This is who you really are, thundered the light. Notice the difference between who you really are and what you really are? It was a very important that I know who I really am. After some indefinite length of nowness, I was told that I must go back, that it is not my time yet. I was okay with this now. I had a huge purpose and far more powerful reason for being. I was given another message that was very important as who I really am. I was told that I might return any time I wished. I have no idea what this means now, but that was the other big message. I returned to my body again, feeling stuffed into a vessel of pain and exhaustion. I do not care to comment upon further details of how I came back to this reality. End quote. What a great story, Ray. Your first NDE when you saw your dog there, that's pretty incredible and significant to a lot of people. And your explanation of nowness, I thought was really good. Still trying to comprehend that fully myself, even with your explanation. There's a couple questions here. Question, did you have a change in your values and beliefs because of your experience? Answer, yes, it became very difficult to be a Christian after that. What I heard described in church was not at all what I learned. Although since then, I have been able to read the Bible and see what Jesus was saying. He was trying to tell us about the other side, but we goof it up trying to understand it. Question, was the experience difficult to express in words? Answer, yes. The place I went to was not the physical, relational place we know in our everyday experience. There was no time there either. The communications that I had with God were without words. How do you express this kind of experience with words? Question, have you ever shared this experience with others? Answer, yes. People listen in a dull, disconnected way. My wife does not believe my NDEs were real, or perhaps not significant would be a better description. It is impossible to describe anyway, but I have an intense need to try. Question, is there anything else you would like to add about your experience? Answer, I sometimes want to die. I have no fear of death whatsoever. I sometimes get suicidal because I know what is beyond and what that peace so very much. I want that peace so very much. I also know that I cannot commit such an act, that it is wrong. End quote. End questions, end story. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.